It is Friday, July 17, 2026. U.S. forces strike Iran again as the battle for control of the Strait of Hormuz grinds into a third week of open conflict. New government inflation data shows consumer prices posted their sharpest one-month drop in more than 6 years, and a sweeping new housing law takes effect without the president's signature after Congress and the White House reached an impasse. Here are the day's top stories, verified against official government sources. U.S. Central Command completed a new wave of offensive strikes against Iran on July 12th, hitting dozens of targets at multiple locations with precision munitions. CENTCOM says forces struck Iranian air defense systems, coastal radar sites, missile and drone capabilities, and small boats using fighter aircraft, naval vessels, and one-way attack drones for the first time. The goal, CENTCOM states, is degrading Iran's ability to keep attacking international shipping in the Strait of Hormuz. The strikes, announced from CENTCOM headquarters in Tampa, Florida, are the latest round in a campaign underway since late June, following repeated Iranian attacks on commercial vessels transiting the strait. CENTCOM calls the strait a vital corridor for global trade that Iran does not control, and says U.S. forces remain postured to preserve freedom of navigation against continued Iranian aggression, harassment, and threats. Why it matters. A prolonged fight over the Strait of Hormuz threatens a choke point that carries roughly a fifth of the world's oil shipments, raising the stakes for energy markets, insurance costs, and shipping security worldwide. The State Department announced new sanctions on July 10th targeting Ali Ansari, a Dubai-based Iranian national accused of managing a global network of real estate and commercial holdings for Iran's supreme leader and other regime insiders. The action also sanctioned 3 Iran-based currency exchange houses and their managing partners. State Department spokesperson Thomas Pigott said the designations build on a series of Treasury actions targeting Iranian shadow banking and currency exchange networks, issued under executive orders covering Iran's financial and petroleum sectors and the supreme leader's affiliates. The department says it will keep pursuing sanctions against any entity, foreign or domestic, that facilitates illicit Iranian commerce and will not relent until the regime changes course. Why it matters. The sanctions pair financial pressure with the military campaign, aiming to choke off the regime's cash flow at the same time strikes degrade its military capacity. The Bureau of Labor Statistics reported the Consumer Price Index fell 0.4% in June, the largest one-month drop since April 2020, after rising 0.5% in May. Energy prices fell 5.7%, with gasoline down 9.7%, driving the decline. Over the past 12 months, the all-items index still rose 3.5%. BLS says core inflation, prices excluding food and energy, was flat in June after rising 0.2% in May, with shelter costs posting their smallest monthly increase since January 2021. Falling energy prices offset increases in shelter, food, recreation, and household furnishings during the month. The all-items index now stands at 333.952 on the Bureau's 1982 to 84 baseline scale. Why it matters. A sharp, energy-driven drop offers relief at the pump, but core prices holding steady suggests underlying inflation pressure hasn't disappeared, a mixed signal for households and for the Federal Reserve as it weighs future rate decisions. WHO and UNICEF reported on July 15th that 90% of infants worldwide, nearly 116 million children, received at least one vaccine dose in 2025, with 85% completing the 3-dose DTP series. An estimated 13.5 million children received no vaccines at all, though that is down nearly 750,000 from the previous year. The agencies say measles coverage remains stalled, with only 84% of children getting a first dose, well short of the 95% threshold needed to prevent outbreaks. That gap contributed to large measles outbreaks in 57 countries in 2025. More than half of unvaccinated children live in conflict-affected or fragile settings, according to the joint WHO-UNICEF data covering 195 countries. Why it matters. WHO Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus called immunization one of the most cost-effective, equitable health interventions available. But the agencies warn that funding cuts and weakening data systems could reverse decades of progress against preventable disease. The 21st Century Road to Housing Act became law on July 11th as Public Law 119-101 after being sent to the Archivist of the United States unsigned 10 days after presentation to the President, according to the congressional record. The House passed it 390-9 in February. The Senate passed it 89-10 in March. The legislation is described in its official text as an act to increase the supply of housing in America, amending dozens of existing housing, veterans, and disaster recovery statutes across the federal code. Its enactment without a presidential signature reflects the Constitution's 10-day rule, under which a bill becomes law if Congress stays in session and the President takes no action. Why it matters. The lopsided bipartisan votes in both chambers signal rare consensus on housing supply even amid a divided Washington, though the unsigned enactment underscores unresolved friction between Congress and the White House. Like and subscribe for fact-based news from official government sources only. Leave a comment. Tell us what stories you want to hear.